Welcome to More Than Mindset, the only podcast that bridges the gap between spirituality and success. Go beyond the mind with clarity and confidence coach Kim Guillory and learn how to integrate your passion to serve with your skills and experience to create a business you love. Let's get started.
Hello. I have a guest today. And, my conversation from last week was about Wholetality. Well, it was Katelyn that I was talking to whenever the word kept appearing until we was like, wait a minute, let's stop and see what this means. So I've asked her to come into the show. I'm going to be doing quite a few more interviews this year. Now that we've hit 300, I've done a lot of solos. The history of the podcast is I came in solo, brought in different studies, bodies of work that I was learning. And then we brought in interviews with coaches that I have trained. And then I went back to solo and we're moving back into interviews. And this time I'm really targeting holistic wellness advocates or practitioners. And Katelyn and I were talking about Wholetality in what does that mean for us in human form? Like, what is Wholetality? So we're going to kind of break that into the conversation. We'll kind of weave it in, but whenever it first started, I was like, Katelyn, maybe we can talk about this age-old wisdom in a modern day society, like Ayurveda in practical form. Like, what's that look like? You know the resistance that you and I both get when we're talking about mind-body modalities, which I probably could call the title of this show like an innocent ignorance, because it feels like resistance, but it actually is I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah,
Very innocent.
truly.
Words we've never heard, these terms and these teachings. And something that I've seen in yoga and some of these bodies of work is people who want to hold the tradition so tight that it doesn't have usufruct to the general public, because there's these rules that bind it and it stops it from growing and evolving. So welcome, Katelyn. She is an Ayurvedic practitioner. You want to tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I'm an Ayurveda practitioner who teaches people how to feel better in their body, get better sleep, and know how to use their energy optimally. I work one-on-one with clients, and a lot of times the problem that I hear the most is I just don't have any energy. I just can't do what I'm supposed to be doing and completing the task I'm supposed to be completing. I don't know how to fuel myself. I don't know what to eat. I'm not sleeping good at night. And Ayurveda speaks to all of those. So I help clients get to the bottom of that. And I have a passion about food. Food was the big trigger for me on my healing and my journey. And so I really focus on nutrition and how people are nourishing their body and if they are able to source the nourishment from the foods that they're eating.
What does that mean?
That means, are you able to digest? How is your digestion? When you take an apple, are you able to take all of the information and all of the nutrients from that apple and use it for what that apple is supposed to be used for? Or does it cause discomfort in the body? Are you not able to digest that apple? And then it's everything. Like, our digestion is everything. We digest our food. We digest everything that we see. We digest everything that we touch, everything that we hear. And I mean, look at the world that we live in. Look all the information that's coming in through all of the senses all the time. We're overstimulated. So no wonder everybody's having problems and struggles with digestion, because there is so much to digest. So much to digest.
So how does that relate to when people are not pausing before eating? And, the eating on the run, eating in movement, eating in a rush of, let me just get this down so that I can go and do that. And it's an accumulation, or as we're saying, the intake of food and information, gobbling down in the regards to what you were just saying, about taking in. So there's this, I'm sitting here and I'm taking in everything around me. I'm taking in your presence, what you're talking about. I'm taking in things in the room, sounds, the truck that's passing behind me. I'm taking all of that in. And it's a big mixture of things that my body maybe can't assimilate it all at the same rate or at all.
Uh-huh.
So I'm present with you, I'm taking in the information, I'm taking in the relationship and, what we're talking about. And then there's this invasive truck with pipes passing behind me. I'm also forced to take that in. And how does that relate to when someone is being forced to eat what the environment has or what they're being served or that lack of control of choices?
Yeah. So you want me to speak to like what someone should do in those lack of control of choices?
How's that impacting? How's that affecting it? Affecting people because they're like, I'm at work, Caitlin. You don't understand. Like, I can't just like go across town or go and cook something or can't have you hear this. I hear this.
Yeah.
Can't just I don't have a life like you. I can't just prioritize that way. Not
Yeah. So
luxurious.
so basically your question is like, how do I live this traditional Ayurvedic lifestyle in this overstimulated society?
Wow, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's simple practices that you can do. So you're a busy worker, a nurse. You have 15 minutes to eat your lunch, right? There's a choice that you can make of like, am I gonna choose to put my senses on my food? Or am I gonna choose to like eat on a rush and think about what I need to do for my next patients? Like whatever one you choose is okay. But know that whichever one you choose the most is either going to lead you to a life of health or a life of
Hell,
dis-ease. Yeah,
hell or health.
or hell, like whichever one. And so, you know, taking 5 minutes to put all of your senses on your food is all you need to do for you to be able to digest your food. So, like, I'm eating, I'm hearing all the sirens, all the bells, all the whistles, all the nurses around me. But I'm like, wow, look, I just keep my thoughts back on my food. Oh, look at that rice. Look at those beans. Man, I really do love sausage. Whatever it is that you need to be thinking about that food, just being like with your food. Just like you would whenever you're breastfeeding your baby, or you see your baby for the first time, like everything is on your baby, like being so present with your food. Doesn't take very long, but like let that be the practice. And if you hear the bell, like, oh, they said code whatever, because you have to tune into different things, but then come back if you don't need to be distracted by that.
So what do you mean by choose the most?
Tell me when I said that.
Just
Choose the
like,
most.
not so much the two, but it's the one you choose the most.
Oh, more frequently. More frequently. So like if there's a time, like you and I were having a conversation about traveling, and one of Ayurveda's rules, is to be still and present when you're eating. But like you said, like there's not times when I can do that. Okay, but let most of the time be those times that you can do that. So when I'm traveling, I have to eat in a moving car. Okay, but is that something that you do every day? That used to be me. I used to be the person, as soon as I get in my car, I need a snack. I need a road snack. That caused so much discomfort in my body because I was doing it every day. But if you're on a road trip and you have to eat in your car because you're not going to be able to eat or whatever it is, like today I have to eat on the road, like that's okay. But you support your body 80% of the time so that it can be supported that 20% of the time that you're not able to tend to it. Your body's adaptable. It knows.
It's really interesting. I'm remembering a time, coincidentally, I stopped in Covington. So I just like suddenly saw myself sitting in this parking lot where I was traveling and I had a coach call and I stopped to take the coach call. And so I was like, oh, priorities. Well, you stop to eat. You stop to take the coach call.
Mm-hmm.
You stop, like, it is decisions.
Mm-hmm. And like a lot of people don't know, like, why can't I eat on the road? Like why isn't it good for me not to eat whenever you're moving? And so it's like just understanding that when you're in a vehicle and the body is moving, like you have to be focused on your traffic choices, navigating a high speed moving vehicle, looking at all the trees and the cars moving fast beside you, and taking in the food at the same time while you're probably either on the phone or the radio's playing. Like, whoa. So then that'll lead to like chronic constipation because of all the stuff you're taking in, you don't even know which one to focus on. You can't digest them possibly all at one time. So then it creates like the flow's gone. There's stagnation.
You want to talk about stagnation? What is stagnation?
Sure. Yeah. Stagnation is whenever there has been an accumulation of undigested emotions, foods, thoughts, experiences in the body that haven't moved, that haven't had the support to move. So it gets stuck in the body, in the digestive tract, in the mind, in the lymphatic system. And that's where dis-ease is started, from the stagnation, from the inability to digest all of the stimulations that you're getting.
Is there a certain time of the year or in a person's life where you see more of this? Like where it's more heightened?
Yes, yes. There's generally more stagnation in the later end of winter, early spring. So like whenever we are we're more still because our environment is not as spring and as active and there's not as much growth that's happening. We are in a season of rest. And so there is more stagnation that tends to happen in the body because we're not as active.
So that would be inactive people and times of the year. Did you answer?
And if you already are an inactive person and you go into the inactive time of year, then that's like, double whammy.
Is that more dominant for different kosha types?
Yes. Yeah. In Ayurveda, there's 3 doshas, and each one is associated with different seasons. And usually during the winter and the early spring, we have the kapha dosha. And each one of these doshas has different elements. And so kapha dosha is water and earth. And so this thing about like the qualities of water and earth, like the mud, the wet snow, the density, the heaviness of the ground, like that's the kapha energy.
So not like overstimulating ingestion, having that particular dosha and it also being that time of the year would mean it would be really dominant. And I'm imagining this almost like you would see an accumulation of water, like either just sitting in a bucket for a long period of time where it didn't completely evaporate and it gets that green film on top of it. Would that be what you were talking about? But it's in
Yeah,
the bucket?
for sure. And I mean, if you live in South Louisiana or you visited the swamps or the Everglades, like that is kapha energy, like that's stagnation. Like the water doesn't flow, there is no flow. It's just there, and it moves by sometimes the wind comes through, sometimes the rain, raises the water level, but it's stagnant because it's not fresh flowing water.
What are some symptoms of stagnation?
So some symptoms of
Would they
stagnation,
know?
so that would be like just a feeling of density, heaviness, lethargy, fatigue in the body. Like you wake up feeling super tired. You're tired throughout the day. You go to bed feeling really tired. Nothing really feels exciting. Brain fog, sugar cravings, meat cravings, fried food cravings, alcohol cravings, caffeine cravings. You would know by an inability to use the bathroom. Like you go days without using the bathroom. Nothing really satisfies you. Like you keep looking for something, a specific taste, and it's not the taste that you want. Like there's nothing that is satisfying you.
So if someone has heard of stagnation for the first time, they're maybe new to Ayurveda or maybe, and guys, you can go back. Katelyn and I have done several interviews where we really talk about the basics, the foundations. She does a class every month and then she does a cleanse twice a year. And then she does this a 6-week, like where you can actually kind of get a little more deeper into it personally. And so I don't want to use our time to go back to something we've done already, but we can do a recap if necessary. But I thought what we could talk about today, we're pretty intuitive with what's going on around us. And so I trust that the thing that you're seeing is the most prominent, and what I'm seeing is the most prominent with people in general will be the topic. And this is it. It's the overstimulation, is the lack of movement. Let me say it's the lack of desire for a movement, which is creating the lack of movement.
Right. Just to add to it with the overstimulation too, it's like I'm so overstimulated, I don't know which way to go, which way to move, so I'm just not gonna move.
and the bowels follow, or the digestion. If they were like, okay, this sounds interesting. Those symptoms sound familiar. I wonder if I have stagnation. What is what are a couple of practical things that they could do to try to know if it would be stagnation?
Yeah, really easy walking after every meal. And it doesn't have to be big. It could be around your house 5 times. Just go walk around your house 5 times. If you are someone who cannot walk for whatever reason that may be, lay on your left side. But if you can walk, don't go lay on your left side. Like, get out and move, right? Going for walks after meals is a huge one. Waking up at the same time every day. Going to bed at the same time every day is another big one. Yes, there are specific times that Ayurveda says to do that, but consistency is what we're looking for. So wake up, go to bed at the same time.
So consistency first.
Consistency first.
And once you develop the routine, then you can pivot it to earlier. I hope you guys are liking this because we are really dialing it into so practical and simple. And I think that's our conversations have been around. We really want to help more people feel better. And the resistance, just because of sheer busyness and overwhelm, there's a challenge. And we are saying this like empathetically, like, yeah, I get it. What else can we do? These are the questions Kate and I have been asking each other. It's like, I wonder what we could do to make it easier. I wonder what we could do to create a crack that they can walk through. I wonder what's some very simple, low energy things that they can try. Because the way that your brain works, so I'm coming in from body, mind, she's coming in from body, is that there's the mental triad, like the characteristics of your brain in general. The natural tendency is to reserve energy. That's where the sluggish comes from, the reserve energy. Like, I'm going to just be a sloth. And then it's like comfort and convenience and like knowing what to do. So it's like this familiarity. Well, if you're listening to a new word and some new stuff, you're not going to feel that at all. So you're already up against number 1 and number 2. And number 3, it's like to preserve, to stay alive, and it's just, you kind of don't feel like you're going to stay alive if you don't know what to do and you're up against this heavy, sluggish paralysis, right? So it's working against, like, oh, I have the desire just to get up and go anyway. It's not. It's actually working against that. So you now built a case in your own mind and body. Because what you were thinking, you created. What you were feeling, you recreated, you reestablished. And so it's almost like in this holding pattern, and we're moving into that time of the year. So what you're feeling right now is going to get exaggerated. You're already seeing it with the time change, and it's damp here today. Like, you can't tell if it's cold or hot, or we put the air on, we're freezing. It's weird that time of the year. And so what's a few things aside from, I'm going to walk after every meal, I'm going to wake up at the same time. Is there any food modifications that I would take?
Yeah, so definitely going into this season, you want to decrease your sugar intake, processed sugar.
But it's praline season and Thanksgiving and candy canes, chocolate covered cherries.
Yeah, and so like, how can you allow yourself to have that? But like, why does it have to be excess? You know, like, why do you have to eat a piece of dessert at every event that you go to? Allow yourself to have it, but just a little bit. And if you are responsible for making the desserts, you can use different ingredients that will help out. But sugar is really big at creating stagnation, fog, and heaviness in the body. Red meats too. Red meats create a lot of heaviness, a lot of density, a lot of stagnation in the body. Bringing in more astringent things like lentils and beans, dark leafy greens. And what those do is that helps draw out the excess water. The stagnation in the body is caused by a buildup of mucus. So a mucus in the joints, mucus in the lymphatic system, mucus in the sinuses, mucus in the mucosal lining of the stomach. Like, it's mucus is what's really happening in the body. So astringent foods will help draw the water and the mucus out of the body.
What about liquids? Anything in particular to stay away from or to add?
It's more about temperature, because you want to keep the body temperature in a warmer state so that it can melt any of the sludge, melt any of that stagnation. So it's more about the temperature of your liquids. Like if you're putting ice in your beverages, stop putting ice in your beverages. If you don't drink warm beverages like herbal teas or warm lemon water, like start doing that. Warm lemon water before your meals would be really good to stimulate digestion.
Is everyone experiencing this at this time of the year or just that particular doshas?
Those particular doshas are feeling it more now, but everyone is likely to experience it at this time of season.
So you can kind of speak to the seasons according to the dominant dosha for the overall generally. If someone like say, and we can add the link for anyone who doesn't know what their Ayurvedic type is or their dosha is, that Katelyn has a test that you can take. It'll tell you right then and there. You don't have to like beg and wait for the email
Yeah.
reply. Got
Yeah.
the test set up to where you just answer a few questions, boop, and it'll tell you exactly what. And then I think you'll even get some emails after describing each type. Or they can find you on YouTube or on your social media after. Okay. So right now, knowing that this is prominent for most people, how would they know if they were not most people?
How do you know if they're not most people? Okay, so you wake up and you feel really energized. You're ready to take on the day. Your BMs, your bowels are moving really, really well. You don't have any issues there. You don't need caffeine. You don't have cravings. You're able to handle any issue that comes your way.
Does that mean you're mental or emotionally?
Mental
You
and emotional. Like things just come in and go out. Things are just flowing. Things are coming in. Things are coming out. Life is just going really, really well.
the week of election.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're good right now, tell me your secret. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but really, really and truly, like the way you can tell is by your digestion. Like if you are needing to take Tums every night, if you're needing to take Gas X, if you eat things and you're just like, oh, like that really gave me heartburn. Like if you notice symptoms and you're taking medication on a regular basis for your digestive symptoms, like you probably have stagnation and we need to talk about it. If you don't have to take anything for your digestive system and you don't have any of those symptoms, then you probably don't have much stagnation.
Okay. And is that for any diet? So is this for like there are people doing the cleanse right now that are having some issues. There are people who are, just changing the seasons change, so we naturally start craving different things. And so you're saying anything that negatively impacts digestion, where you have heartburn or you're constipated or you have BS symptoms or
Yeah.
bloating.
If you are living your day-to-day life
Mhm.
and you have these symptoms, then there's probably some stagnation that needs to be addressed. If you are in a cleanse or you're making transitions in your diet, then that is stagnation that's being addressed.
Oh, the symptoms are like the particular changes are creating the symptom to address them. The benefit of
Yeah.
this discomfort is temporary.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. So as in you are in the process of seasonally changing your diet, doing a cleanse, making some kind of changes to support your diet in that way, and you're going through symptoms you've never experienced before, know that things are shifting and changing and they will stabilize to either a new you or back to how you were before, depending on what you're dealing with.
Can you talk about the seasonal cleanse and why do you do this twice a year?
Yeah, we do this twice a year for stagnation because anytime you are in a transition from one season to the next, you have accumulated those excess elements in the body. So like water and earth have accumulated in the body and they'll accumulate in the joints, in the stomach, in the lungs, in the sinuses. And so every season you accumulate these excess elements. And so right now in the season of the fall, we're cleansing to cleanse the stagnation that we're experiencing in our gallbladder and our liver, because that's where the heat and the water have settled from the summer. So we do them twice a year to cleanse the stagnation of the toxic buildup that we're holding in our bodies, in our minds, by eliminating inflammatory foods, by taking the busyness out of your life, by decreasing the stimulation that you're getting through food and through life in general.
What are the benefits of that? Like what's the advantage of doing a cleanse versus not doing a cleanse?
You get the support. So the body naturally knows how to release the stagnation, right? Whenever we provide the environment that it needs to release the stagnation. And so we take 14 days to ensure that we are providing the environment that it needs so it can release the stagnation while we support it with a specific diet, with herbs, and with detox practices. So if you don't do the cleanse, the body knows what to do and how to cleanse itself, but you're missing the ease of creating the environment that it does. And let's say you don't have the chance to slow down, you don't intentionally slow down, then the body's like, okay, we don't have time to cleanse. So we're just going to pack this on and keep it later. Just like in your life in general, like, oh, I don't have time to go through this stack of mail, so I'm going to leave it on my desk and I'll come back to it later. It will just create clutter. And so eventually you can come back and unpack it later, but it might turn into, oh, now I have to unpack diabetes instead of unpacking stagnation. Like, oh, now I have to unpack colitis, gastritis, instead of unpacking the stagnation seasonally.
A little powerful there. So the
This process is what happens.
yeah, you went through it, so you're all high and mighty right now. I'm in it.
I also had to reverse a lot of diseases because I didn't address the stagnation because I wasn't aware that there was stagnation.
Mhm.
And
About that because go ahead. What were you saying?
it was like my body was giving me the symptoms and the cues that there was stagnation, but I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that I'm not supposed to take Tums every night. Tums is there. I'm not supposed to take it. It makes me feel better. Like, I didn't know it was what I was consistently doing every day that was causing this stagnation in my body. And then once I realized that, I was like, oh my gosh. And then I had to go through the process of cleansing it out year after year after year after year, because it's like, you don't realize all the patterns that you have in your life and in your beliefs until you start unpacking them and you're like, oh my God, they show up everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And because this is not just your natural type that you're born with, it's not just what you eat, it's not just the information you're consuming, it's also your environment. It's also what you're tolerating.
Yeah.
That's you don't want to tolerate, but don't know how to get out of. Can we talk about environmental, like how that
Wow.
also plays an impact on it?
Yeah, that's a really, really, really challenging one because it's like your body type to be at complete ease, effortless ease, requires a certain environment, just like a house plant. This outside, this plant needs this environment to grow to its optimal, to be able to produce fruit. Right, it can grow and make leaves anywhere, but to produce the fruit, it needs to be in this environment. And so it's really hard and really challenging whenever you are living in a house, living in a city, living in a community, working a job, maintaining this environment for optimal growth, right? And you can maintain it and you can still be growing the leaves and growing the limbs, but you'll never produce a fruit, right? So you're going to live, you're going to survive, but you're not at your optimal level. And so it really does have an impact on how you're able to show up and what you're able to accomplish with your life when you're in an environment that's not conducive for your growth.
Yeah. So we could talk about that in pets and plants. Like if someone's unsure because they've been doing the same behavior for so long and they're not sure yet, how would that show up in their pets and how would that show up in their plants?
Yeah. So, I mean, your plant is on the back porch and it's getting direct sunlight, but it's a plant that likes morning sun. And so you're like, why is this plant not growing? It's getting sunlight, it's getting water, it's outside, it's still alive, but I know it can look better. Like Susie's looks better than mine. And then you just move it to a different location. And then finally, oh my gosh, this plant is really doing really well right here. And so you've learned its optimal placement.
Mm-hmm. Well, also your plant, according to the house, like what the environments in the house, you're a reflection. Yeah.
Yeah, the energy that you're giving to the plant. I mean, also too,
Our plants were way happier when Linda lived here.
I wonder why. Why does she talk to them? But like with your pets too. I mean, the way your plants and your pets respond and react to your energy is like a whole nother level, right? I'm speaking of that, talking about mirrors.
You know, there's a book called Your Dog is Your Mirror.
Nah, I think I know that. I think I know that from you.
Yeah, it was an actual book.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I see it with my cat. I have a cat, and anytime she's exhibiting this behavior that I'm just like, I cannot stand, I'm like, oh, I'm doing it. It's me.
We're kids. Kids. You know, I was telling you I was watching a TED Talk of a kid talking about kids and brought out like this, I guess, 18-month-old or two, you know, like crawling. I'm so lost with that stuff, and the parent was giving them attention and how happy they were. And then the parent started playing on an iPad and just ignoring them on purpose. And the kid started just having a tantrum and rolling, like and crawling on them and crying and whining. And they put the iPad down and turned right back to smiles, to attention and connection.
Yeah. That's what our bodies want too. That's why our bodies are throwing fits with all the symptoms too. It's like, can I just have some attention and some connection? But we've just busied ourselves with so many things. So many things.
So what is the biggest challenge? Like when you start working with someone because when you're in the busy, I mean, let's just be honest, it's hard to stop and worry about this. Like you're saying by doing the cleanse, you're forced into the stillness and into the space because you have to, if you're following it, you have these certain things you need to do. Those things require time and intention. Because if you don't do it every day, or if you do it every day, you literally have to fit it in the schedule. And so it forces you to be attentive. Yeah. And for someone who is like, girl, I barely got time to brush my teeth. But they're innocent, ignorant. They actually don't understand the advantage and benefits. Where would you start? Or does it always start with the symptoms and the crises? What's your take on that? Joe Dispenza says you don't have to wait for crises. And I'm like,
Yeah, you definitely don't have to wait for a crisis, but in my experience, that's usually what it takes.
yeah, I'm with you. I agree.
It is what it takes, you know, for you to like come back to the body is because it's like, oh, the body has finally got my attention. But sometimes you can give people the science and the cleanse, and you know they get the evidence of like, whoa, that really does work. I'm not going to stop doing that. But it usually does happen first.
It's like tongue scraping. If you're curious, once you do it, you get instant benefit. That is very noticeable, I guess I'll say. It's like it's a dominant notice. And if you can give them that, you know, we're talking about you listened to the Joe Rogan and Andrew Weil conversation, that 2-minute clip that I love to listen to. And that was one of the things that they were talking about is if you could be an example of it, if you can give them a win, because that is, again, that's the mental triad. The brain needs the win. It needs that recognition. It needs the knowing. It needs the certainty. It's just the way we function. So back to my question that was very long-winded. What would you do for the person who isn't having the crises? That's like, where would you start with them?
Yeah, I would start with that simple morning routine of like scraping your tongue.
And what about the one who was in crises with symptoms and diagnosis? Where would you start them?
With the morning routine. Yes, the morning routine. Yeah. I mean, really, and that's what I'm hearing mostly from the people during the cleanse. It's like I didn't know how much energy I could have by spending just 5 to 10 minutes in the morning on this morning routine.
Right.
Like it gives you so much energy whenever you just spend a little bit of time to stimulate the senses.
Talk about that. Stimulate the senses.
And so the morning routine is designed to stimulate the senses that are going to take in all of the information during the day, right? We're talking about stagnation is because you can't digest all of the information that's coming through the senses. So support the senses by doing these self-care practices with the senses every morning. So you're opening them up. You're helping them detox, like the taste with the tongue. Splash cold water on your face for your eyes. There's other things that they bring in for the ears, of like chewing sesame seeds because it's crunchy and it stimulates the ears. Dry brushing, oil massaging. You know, all of the ways that you're taking in information.
So most people have stagnation. Some have symptoms, some don't yet. And just Ayurveda itself, like just the system of awareness and understanding and self-care and mind-body connection opens the senses to receive the information. So it's almost like you have a lot of traffic and you're trying to get somewhere, but the traffic is congested. Or, okay, we're going to leave at 2 a.m. and we actually can just drive straight through. We don't have all the congestion because we took the preface, like we took the time and attention and care to do something different to avoid or to go through it, kind of thing. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah. You made, like, you paved the road. You made it smooth so then it could just go in and flow out.
So you can take it in. You can take in the scenery. You can take in the experience. You can take in the feelings because all you're focusing on is what you were doing. Whereas before you're focusing on people coming in, people going out, and the lights changing and the traffic and the big trucks. So the senses were on overload already and really couldn't receive anything else, trying to, but it's so congested you can't receive all of it. But then whenever the traffic is clear, you can focus just on how fast am I going and what am I seeing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so a lot of the resistance comes, with the people who are like, oh, I don't even have time to brush my teeth. And I'm like, okay, well, wake up a little bit earlier. And I get the resistance on, waking up a little bit earlier because then I'm going to be tired, only running on like 5 hours of sleep. But what people are telling me in the cleanse, it's like, it doesn't matter how early I wake up, the self-care practices are so energizing that after you do them, like you are just so open and ready to take it all in.
It's buying back time and energy.
Yes, it's creative.
For the return on investment on these 5-10 minutes could be 3 to 5 hours of stamina.
Mm-hmm. Focus,
drive, openness.
the yummy things.
Ooh, interesting. What other resistance do you get? Oh, we live in the South, so quite possibly, since it's the body of yoga, that could be some concerns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. I get a lot of resistance on that. A lot of people think it's a religion, and it's like it's not a religion. There are religions that use it as part of their practice, but it's just how to take care of your body. How to take care of your body so you can use your mind.
Really?
Optimally. Another form of resistance I get a lot is whenever it comes to nourishing myself, nourishing themselves, having access. Because a lot of people think Ayurveda, it has to be Indian. Like, oh, it's Indian foods. I have to eat Indian spices and Indian cuisines. And no, you don't have to eat that. You have to learn how to balance augmenting and extracting foods, which augmenting is building tissues. Extracting is pulling toxins from tissue. So learning how to balance those types of foods in your diet is Ayurveda, not necessarily eating Indian. Indian is the nationality that it was founded in, like it was founded in India. So there are a lot of those spices, and using those spices is a very good way to help the body heal because they're very medicinal. But it doesn't have to be Indian food.
You can use any cuisine. Like
Any
cuisine.
Any cuisine. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Any other resistance?
That's pretty much it.
Just the primary.
Yeah. And a lot of times, like, through a little bit of, coaching and mentorship, it's like you had all of this time, but you just needed to like navigate your priorities. Like you were giving your time too much to something, or you were social media, like helping people realize how much time they waste on social media when they could actually be, preparing their meals, or dry brushing or scraping your tongue instead of spinning it on scrolling through TikTok. It's amazing.
Yeah, and that was when I did Clean Fit back in the day, and this was when all of this was kind of starting. And one of the assignments was like, I was like, all right, everybody take out your phone, open up your settings, look at how often are you on your phone? There's a report in the back of your phone. You can look at it. If you set it up, it'll let you know every day or every week how much time you've spent on it.
And I'm not here to judge, it's like the reasons why we're doing.
It's a legit addiction though. Let's get real about it.
Yeah, but it's also like a good medicine, and people are using it as like a form of medicine, because what it does is like we're so overstimulated that we are slowing everything around us down, but we're speeding up our stimulation by all of the information coming through our phone. It's like we just go into a different portal, a different reality. But it's almost like we have the false belief that we're slowing down and we're decompressing.
Because it feels like you've stopped and isolated your attention, but you don't realize the massive amount of attention that's coming in from every single post and reel and person and identity and message. And it's so much more. It's condensed. So you're actually have just become what's a fast speed car? A massive amount, way more. I've never, ever talked about politics, ever. That's not my thing. But I've been watching, since all of this has come up, I've been watching Bobby Kennedy talk about holistic wellness. And he said, like, our mission, I feel like, man, we got Smile on our team, because we have been talking about, you were doing behavior for children. We're talking about ending chronic disease. And that seems to be the target. Did you hear that? Did you feel like, I'm just kind of fired up about this. It was like, I had Institute of Integrated Nutrition in 2012. Like, I got into a lot of this stuff in 2010. And we're in 2024. I've never seen or heard that be in politics. Have you? Well, probably don't watch any more than I do. I'm kind of excited. Like, I'm kind of thinking it's the innocent ignorance.
I really, really think we just need more education. And we need education from the people that can reach the people. So having someone
That kind of a big platform.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, we're been under a rock.
Yeah. So having someone that is going to educate, to give you the information so you can make your own decisions.
Yeah, because they're talking about, like, it's not taking away vaccines, but you'll have choice. Because right now it's mandatory. So there'll be choice, and there'll be educated choice, is what I heard. And ending chronic disease really got my attention, because that is what I think the mind-body coaching and Ayurveda, that is yoga. That's what we've been talking about. But I guess because politics is more business and political and money and economics, I've never really heard much about this. It's like the food pyramid. You hear that kind of stuff, but most of the people that I see in health look very unhealthy. Like, when we were on part of the coalition, they were like extremely overweight. They were bringing Sonic to the calls. They were late for the call. Like, it was not a mirror or an example of health. So that always made me kind of wonder. So I'm kind of curious about this.
Yeah, it is.
I don't even know if you know any of this, because I was completely checked out and just checked it.
Well, I knew a little bit of it just from what people tell me, but I never did, my own research. But, it's just very, very interesting, because it's like nutrition has been taken so far away from health. Like, it's like two different things. Like, that you work on your nutrition and then you work on your health.
And so what are your thoughts about some of the stuff that we hear about the environmental toxins? And so even if someone is changing their lifestyle and eating better, I think there's a problem with vegetables because it's got all these things on. Then there's a problem with meat. Then there's a problem, like, and so I know that if I'm educated and continue taking this in, I know that the average person is confused.
Mhm.
What would Ayurveda say about, is you taking, like, just being present with whatever it is? Because we can look at third world countries and people who just eat beans and people who just, what's Ayurveda's take on that? Not Katelyn's, Ayurveda's.
So Ayurveda's take is pray on it. Like, you get your hands on it, you prepare it, and you pray over it. Because if you can heal yourself, then you can also heal your food.
Ooh, that's good.
So, I mean, Ayurveda says, like, if this is all you can get is a bag of dry rice and some canned beans, like
Ooh,
you prepare it with love, you pray over it, and you eat it and you enjoy it.
that could be taken out of context. Yeah.
Like everything. I like everything.
Oh my goodness. Was Caitlin and I have like I'm an emotional generator. She's a projector, and so I always bring like a little bit of this and stuff. So it's always an invitation. And so, is there an invitation to add anything to the conversation? Do you feel satisfied?
I mean, if you take anything away from this, it's like just pay attention to how much time you give yourself attention in a day. Like the amount of attention that you give to your children, to your clients, to your boss, to your animals, to your pets, whatever, like how much attention do you give yourself,
Like to your body?
meeting your needs? And just let that be the first spot of curiosity.
Anybody think that?
Yeah.
Even in crises.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for coming on, guys. Let me know by email if you're getting this by email, or leave us a rating and review if you enjoyed this. I did talk to Caitlin. I was like, maybe we should do a Killing Kate show, like once a month or something, where we would have continuing, like ongoing episodes speaking to this from the mind body perspective of her specialty and my specialty together. And just kind of how we move through or navigate through the differences and the similarities, and how each speaks to the other, and how we help clients in different ways. But we have many of the same clients. I never send people in when it comes, because food is such an important part, of the body perspective, but it's also an important part of the mental perspective. So it's like and also the energy. So it's like such a huge part, even like you're saying, pray over the food. I mean, we can even bring in the spiritual aspect of it. And our body cannot function without it. It can function without a lot of other things, but it can't function without food, without nourishment.
Yeah. And if the word prayer, like triggers you or makes you like, whoa, it's like giving your attention to your food. Like just put your attention on it. Like, hey, food, you look real beautiful and you look much better in my belly, and like eat it. Just give it attention.
All right, my friends. See you next week. Let us know if you want more.
Thanks for listening to this episode of More Than Mindset.